Well, good morning and welcome to Safeguard Your Business. I'm here with Salar Sarori and looking forward to a great discussion about how we can use video analytics to protect businesses from the COVID-19 threats. Before we get started, I want to introduce the Aviate AI community. We are sponsoring this event and we are an exclusive membership community that helps product innovators create video AI superpowers for smarter products. Part of our value is we walk the product innovators through a 5-step process to gaining video AI superpowers. And if you'd like to learn more about this, join our community at member.aviate.ai. So I'd like to get started and introduce our speaker this morning. And this is Salar Sarori, and he is the founder and CEO of Dataview, and he is a serial entrepreneur. He started 2 other companies prior to this one, and he has expertise in infectious disease diagnosis and computer vision and others, and excited to have him lead this discussion on protecting your business from COVID-19 threats. Okay, Salar.
Great. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And can you hear me properly? See the slides? All good?
Yeah, all good.
Okay, great. So let's get started. Today I want to discuss some of the interesting things that is being done using video analytics. And it's like an open discussion. Hopefully we can put our brains together and come up with more interesting ideas. But let's advance here. Let me see. Okay, great. So I think everybody knows that all these businesses that are closed now, they want their customers back. That's the primary goal. And like we see that across the board, all kinds of businesses, retail, offices, big, small, mid-sized companies. So the ultimate goal is that we bring in the customers with a high level of confidence. And an interesting observation here is that it's everybody's problem. Unlike many other situations that usually the problem is pointing to a particular entity, here the business owner or the employer is involved, the employee or the staff is also involved, customers are involved, and the vendors are involved. So essentially all the stakeholders here are engaged with this problem. So this statement makes the problem even more interesting because you need to address the concerns that all these parties have from their perspective. And I think maybe I should pause here, and Dale, can you put like the next poll question here?
Yeah, let me launch this poll. So again, I'll give you 30 seconds or so to fill this out, but what is the primary type of facility that your business has? Whether you're in manufacturing or retail, office space, theme park. I know a lot of knowledge workers are in the office space area, and I suspect that's yeah, the most common one here, but give it a couple more seconds. And then we'll end the poll here and share results. So you'll see we have one person in the education space, the classroom space, and 80% of them in office space. So as expected, knowledge workers tend to work out of office space, and office spaces have interesting challenges in maintaining safety during the COVID period. So thank you.
All right. All right. So now let's dive into this problem and see what the potential solutions are. I think that what we need to pay attention to is whatever the solution is or whatever companies are proposing, they need to be practical and effective. And it seems at least these four different main categories are more effective in terms of addressing the threat of the virus spreading. Number one is that you should cover your face. That's very basic, right? Then the next one is distancing or physical distancing or separation of some sort. That is very important because let's say if somebody is sick, if their face is covered and they're far enough from you, the chances that you can get the virus or spread the virus is much lower. Now, these things should also be coupled with monitoring of some sort, like temperature detection, or some people call it fever detection, is very much helpful to identify these people. And if this whole thing is coupled with access control, like if people are trying to enter the building or like there's like a security gate, usually at the choke points, that's also helpful not to let these type of people, like symptomatic people, to enter this environment. And so essentially you stop the spread right at the beginning of the event. Now, when we think about an effective solution, it has three different components, like the four main types of solution that I mentioned to you. One of it is monitoring. So first you need to identify people that are potentially positive or they need like secondary screening. Then the next thing is somehow we need to communicate that information with the proper entities. And finally, the most important thing is what kind of action you might take. So this is the entire cycle of finding the person, communicating that information properly, and then finally do something about it. Either go and send somebody to them and say, okay, maybe you should come and see the health officials. Or if there is like a testing station there. Whatever that solution is, action is really important in that case.
So, Solar, before you go there, do you want to show those videos?
Yes, yes. So let me, so I have a couple of videos that these are like fun videos to watch to see what other companies or people are doing. So let me go there.
Did you share PowerPoint? You're going to need to reshare here.
No, it's from YouTube. So this one is what they're doing. One of the things that they're doing in China. So they're deploying drones like in public spaces, and it has a loudspeaker on the drone. And they use cameras and they notify people, look, you're too close, you're not wearing your mask. So it's completely public. They're kind of shaming people.
You want to make that full screen?
Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do they have a picture of the drone? Or is this just a picture from the drone? So audio warnings is an interesting approach, certainly in an environment where you don't have the identity of the people.
Right. And
Do you know where this processing is being done? Is it being done on the drone, or are they sending data back to server?
That I'm not sure, but it's more like monitoring. There isn't much of a processing. Like there's like a pilot, like there's like somebody flying the drone.
I see. Okay.
And they see the images, and right there they announce, like they're saying that for the, especially for the rural areas, it is also a tool to educate people.
Correct.
So that's one interesting thing I wanted to show you. Then if you want to elevate the deployment here in terms of quality, this is the Boston Robotics robot in Singapore.
Make it full screen.
Yeah. So the robot is using cameras and it monitors people and notifies them that you're getting too close.
We can't hear what he's saying, Salar.
Yes, that's, yeah, this is something to see.
Yeah, we can't see anything.
Yeah, so the robot is moving around the park and is chasing people essentially to scare them off.
I think New Yorkers have a field day with that one.
Right.
Probably want to take it home. Have his.
Yeah. I don't think you can kick this robot. It's designed not to fall.
Exactly.
Okay, like this is another fun shot here. I think there are a couple of women sitting. Yeah, this is okay.
Results of their trial. Did you get the results? When did this? May 15th. So yeah. So the trial should be. We should find out how people responded to being chased by mechanical dogs through the park.
Exactly. So it's kind of scary. Like people are seriously scared of this. Let me just...
This is not. We're seeing your speaker view. We're not seeing your.
Yes.
You need to see your slideshow view. There you go.
All right. So now let's focus on the deployment process. You know, the way we have designed our software is that it's easily mounted on the existing infrastructure. So let's talk about a scenario. There are a bunch of security cameras in a particular retail store, for example. So that camera is continuously capturing videos, and we are adding our analytics software to it. Obviously, majority of these cameras are RGB or visible type of camera. They're not IR cameras. But the point is that the visible part, that is like a good portion of the monitoring, could be deployed with the existing cameras and infrastructure. So those cameras are monitoring the area, and let's say there's like one particular case that for example, they're not wearing their mask, or they're not wearing their mask properly. So that camera typically sends that information to either like a central portal or to the security personnel for other reasons historically, but not the same thing can be used to notify the right entity or the right people that, look, there's somebody in the store that is not wearing the mask properly and they're a potential threat for spreading the virus. So whatever you're monitoring, the software analyzes that and passes on the result of the analytics to the right entity. It could be like a supervisor, it could be a smartphone, or it could be a portal. So that's a typical process of how monitoring in these public venues is done. Now, the point of using video analytics, in my opinion, is that you can tap into a great degree of automation. And what that means is not like human beings cannot cope with that level of simultaneous reasoning or analysis or capturing different scenes or analyzing things at the same time. So automation enhances the ability to draw conclusions, hopefully in real time or near real time, dramatically comparing to, let's say you have hired like 10 different security people or health officials in that environment, and you want every single one of them watch for people, like measure their temperature, see if they're coughing, if they're wearing their mask, if they're touching their face or touching other like public surfaces. So the whole point of using video analytics is to make this much easier and faster and more effective. And another factor is the labor cost, because in your business, if you want to hire these people for these reasons, you need to pay their salary and also expose those people to potential hazard. It's not just their salary, it's just the exposure of those particular people. You're essentially sacrificing those people for that reason. And what I want to show you after this is a few videos that shows our software in action. And I think we have a poll question here, right?
Yeah, one more poll question on which of these methods are you planning to implement or have already implemented? So for most of the people that in the previous poll indicated that they haven't yet implemented. So if you have in your plans any of these, please answer, and we'll give you 20 seconds more, and then we'll show you the results. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, and here are the results. So can everybody see this? Couple on mask compliance, one temperature measurement, fever detection, and one symptom detection. So interesting distribution, but not surprising. I think masks have been, people immediately understand the value of a mask and the effectiveness of the mask. So it's a much simpler deployment than some of these other opportunities. So thank you.
All right, so this is the first video, and we're showing that how AI, machine learning based algorithms, is detecting masks and how it's analyzed. So this lady is holding that mask, and the software knows that she's not wearing it. So that's why that bounding box around her face is not authenticating, and keeps notifying that, look, there's no mask that is covering the face. So essentially it has the intelligence not to trick the algorithm that, oh, you have a mask. It needs to be properly covering the face. So she's just, this is just a random scene, but she's talking about how probably how to wear the mask. And then at this point, the software authenticates and says, okay, now you're wearing the mask. And our software also can capture that if, for example, if that person's nose is outside of the mask, it also analyzes that. So it's not just wearing it, it's also properly wearing it. So that's
so is this based on AI, or you could probably use simple classic machine vision, right? You could probably find some markers and just note the area, and then you could probably figure out this is a mask region, right? Do you need AI for this?
So we are using like a combination of some classic image processing and some AI.
Okay.
So that's like the result is this obviously. Yes, but you're right. Some of the things do not need that kind of processing.
Correct. Okay.
This video shows like some of the features that the AI is detecting. So it's the focus is the facial features. And number one is that it detects eyes, like if they're closed or open, mouth, if it's open or closed, if the person is smiling, if they're having mustache or beard, if they're wearing prescription glasses, or if they're wearing like sunglasses. The whole thing is tracked and analyzed in real time. And then this is very important if you want to analyze like temperature or some of the other stuff. In this video, what we're showing is that the same camera and software package can measure distances between people. That is linked to exposure tracking. So it tracks people and it does the distance measurement. So you see that like here, this cluster of people are too close to each other, but these are fine, like they're walking from distance. So I'm just showing you different building blocks of analysis.
This is very interesting, Salar. Are you how are you calibrating your software? Do you know the distance and angle at which camera is looking at the surface?
Yes, I think that there is like a particular model that is like a bird's eye view, and you look at 2D images from the top, and there's a calibration there, and the rough calibration reference is an average height of a person. So you're looking at 5.6, 5.7 feet, more or less.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, this video is for temperature. The source of data is really an overlay of thermal images and also visible. And the way we measure temperature is from the corners of the eye. Because that happens to be the most accurate if you want to do remote sensing. Many people think it's the forehead, but it turns out that corners of the eye is more accurate because it's closer to the internal body temperature.
It's also affected by environmental conditions. So if it's cool outside, your forehead can be, the skin temperature, your forehead can be cooler, whereas your eye is less affected.
Right. So these are just some test data. You see that we are measuring distance, we are measuring temperature. This is really the convergence of some of those features that I showed you separately. It figures out if they're wearing masks. And by the way, this is a very challenging video because it's darker. The masks are also dark color. They're not the typical color. So we're just pushing the limits of the software to see how well it can detect things. And this is just another example, only on temperature. And if I want to explain a little more here, there's so much variability there because if they're not facing the camera, obviously it's challenging. And the power of this kind of architecture or software algorithm is that it works in the ambient environment. We've seen many camera solutions out there. There's like a choke point. So people go there, queue up in front of the camera one by one, either manual operation or automated. The temperature is measured on the next person. This is very different. You're in a completely open environment and the software just waits and waits until the person's face has the right, let's say, angle in front of the camera. Then it captures the temperature, or measures the temperature and all the other features.
So the
So
face and the eye processing is done in the RGB space, and then the temperature measurements in the IR space. Is that how it's done?
yes, but they're overlaid. So
Yeah.
they're simultaneous streams of data. The camera that we are using streams data simultaneously from both
You're not doing
sensors.
face detection in the IR domain. You're doing it in the RGB domain.
The face detection is in the RGB domain.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the accuracy? I mean, what are your thoughts on the limitations of this? I mean, obviously, I cannot believe you would be able to produce 0.5 degree of accuracy, right? Maybe plus minus 1 or 2 degrees, which is still okay.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, these IR cameras have very fine precision in their measurements. The challenge comes in calibration, and there are some interesting techniques that are used for a lot of systems to auto calibrate based on healthy individuals. But yeah, there's even within healthy individuals, there's variability in the baseline. So half degree is hard.
Yes, and depending on the space that you want to use this for, it could be like a completely open space, let's say a theme park, or it could be like an office space. So office space is a more controlled environment. And then continuous calibration, for example, the black body calibration could be used just to enhance the quality and the accuracy of measurement. But then there are also remedies from the algorithm side. You could remove some of the biases. But there are some challenges. I have another slide that I'm going to go over these potential issues with respect to all of these things.
Yeah. But the newer IR cameras have pretty good built-in accuracy. It's pretty surprising.
Right.
0.3 degrees, 0.2 degrees C.
Interesting.
So we are using like very sophisticated, perhaps one of the best in the market that has pretty high resolution, 640 by 480 for the thermal, and it's HD for the RGB. And it has like a wide angle lens just to capture enough pixels around the eyes. And yeah, that's more or less the hardware side of it.
That's the other thing that impacts the result on end is if you have enough pixels on target, because the pixels will tend to average the region around the space. So if part of the region is cooler and part of it's warmer, if you don't have enough pixels on target, you can't resolve that. So that's one of the challenges. They need to be close enough, or your sensor needs to be high enough resolution.
Correct.
Right. Now, maybe I should use this slide to explain that the comprehensive or the way you exert the intelligence is also very important in terms of detection and monitoring, right? So let's say somebody is wearing glasses, then you don't have clear access to the corner of the eyes, right? But the point of this ambient measurement or monitoring is that you don't have a single event to do the monitoring. You have continuous monitoring. So what that means is, if for example for some second the person takes off the the glasses, you can do the measurement. Like the camera is like a hunter, so it hunts that and captures that moment. Or if they keep it on, it looks for other cues, like maybe the forehead, but closer to the eyes. Like you can locate something that is closer to the most accurate source of temperature reading. But you know, the whole point is that even FDA, whomever has the approval for the camera, they don't call it fever detection. They call it elevated body temperature. There's no one, if somebody says we can detect fever, they're not being honest. And it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, these people should go to secondary screening. It's just a reference point that there's something up and the temperature is elevated. Now, when it comes down to masks, for example, if frame by frame you get like false positives or false negatives, typically when somebody has a mask on, they have their mask on, right? So there are these nuances in the algorithm that they can correct to have like the proper conclusion. Now this scene is in a restaurant from this Batman movie. So this demonstrates that you can track many people simultaneously, whomever is sitting there. Obviously they're eating, so there's no mask here. And it shows that right angle or perspective that I mentioned. Like this person right now has the right proper angle, but if they're looking away from the camera, then it's not in the proper position, like that. You see when it turns, yeah, the orange color, it means it's not the optimum condition. So the software has the constraints, and it continues to look for the best viewing angle to do the analysis. So yeah, so be prepared. Like in the future, when we go to restaurants, we're gonna be analyzed like this. Now this is a video of a store, a security camera.
How are we going to eat through our face mask? That's the challenge I haven't figured out yet.
Right. You either risk it, or there's like a mechanical mask that opens up whenever you. There are some smart masks, believe it or not. Like it opens up and the spoon goes towards your mouth. So, like you see crazy stuff out there. But yeah, but at minimum, we need that some kind of monitoring, right, to minimize the spread or the threat. So here, what we are showing is the distance, the separation, and what the point I mentioned to you, that the software works with the existing infrastructure. So there's security guard. At some point, people were too close, but then you see that it continuously measures what's going on here. It's just a sample video. Now, what I want to draw to your attention is that Dataview, I just want to take this opportunity and explain to you what else Dataview platform is about. This COVID-19 monitoring is one of the tools or features that we offer in this platform. But there's a whole lot more that we can do and offer on this platform, and that's variety of real-time and algorithms that are useful, in this case, like enhanced security. So what we are showing is that this is like a thermal image, but we can track motion. All these people that are moving, we can track their motion. So motion tracking has nothing to do with the COVID-19, but what we are showing here is that that these people already have security cameras. Not only we can measure the temperature and all the other features I mentioned to you, but we are also doing many other functions. And now, tracking motion on its own may be something really boring. Okay, you just isolated the moving objects, but the information that you extract from this is what's useful. So if a security guard is sitting behind the monitor and looking at all these images, they most probably, even though they're trained, they don't have the ability to make, for example, separate or isolate all the objects that are moving in the southeast direction with this kind of velocity. So we could define all those things, and the software automatically isolates those incidents. And that it has like the next level of sophistication here. How you turn that data into information. And what we're showing here is that that platform that we have is capable of doing all these additional things. Now, we kind of talked about the issues. When you look at different things, one of them is the false positives or false negatives of monitoring. Now, the next point here is the privacy. This is a really big concern globally. And it has its stems in like contact tracing all the way to using computer vision and how the data is stored, who has access to it, the concerns about the government, if they set the precedent that, okay, now you're monitoring people for the virus, but you're never going to take it away. So these are all the challenges that different groups talk about. And it seems like the best approach at this point is you anonymize the processing. So what I showed you in our videos, there's like a great deal of facial recognition technology. And there are two ways to do facial recognition in terms of identification. You can either ID people. So you say like, this is John, this is Sarah, and you compare that against a database. It could be in a company or in society as a whole, like in China for the most part. Or you could find identifiers in these people. Let's say I see a person with elevated temperature that is wearing a blue shirt. We don't really know their identity. We just know that they're wearing a blue shirt. So this process of offering the solution in an anonymized fashion is the most attractive. But there's a lot of slippery slope here. You could easily end up with, essentially we need to assure customers and businesses and all the parties involved in the earlier slide I showed that their privacy is respected. So that's another issue here. Now, face covering is also another interesting challenge. Because we have improvised like clothing, like people use those to cover their faces. There are surgical masks, there are like N95 masks, there are different colors of masks. Apparently there is like a transparent mask. So any of these variations can easily throw off the software. And it's very fluid. Like every day somebody comes up with a different format or shape of these masks. And so that means you continuously need to keep up with these changes. So not to miss these variabilities when you're using the software. And if I really want to summarize this talk is that, okay.
Oh, we had a poll after this one, right?
Yeah, you can run the poll, huh?
You want to back up? So every business has a little bit different constraints on the privacy, and we wanted to get some feedback on your particular business, which of these are important concerns or issues. So some, like in medical, you have HIPAA compliance, particularly if you're diagnosing somebody as having a fever, that becomes medical information at some point. And then personal information to notify individuals and a bunch of different constraints depending on what kind of facilities you have and what your business is. So I'll give you a few more seconds and then we'll go through and show the results. All right. So you see, I guess 75% have facial recognition issues, 50% people tracking issues, and 25% HIPAA. Interesting distribution. So no one has individual tracking. So it's or should say individual notification issues. So it will become an interesting issue as we go forward. So thanks for sharing that and interesting results.
All right, and then finally, I just want to summarize all these ideas that I shared with you. So even though it's very fluid these days, like all these requirements change, and CDC comes up with something different. But so far, with our current understanding, the point is that if we use some of these tools, the higher these chances, like we could bring in our customers back with the decent level of confidence, or the higher level of confidence, so they can comfortably come back. Because right now some businesses are opening up, but people don't want to go in. Like, let's say shopping malls are opening, but many people are concerned about going back. So this assurance is what's missing. So if companies can use these technologies, it probably helps them to bring in that confidence. Number one is that it's the use of AI and video analytics. We talked about all these different variabilities, different technologies, different things we can monitor. These are all video based. And the important thing is that we need to respect everybody's privacy, as we mentioned, because you could easily go in the domain that people don't like it, like in the environment of an office space. Many employees don't like to be tracked of any sort. They feel that even though you tell them that, look, we are not interfering with your privacy, the fact that there's a camera in their office watching them makes them really nervous. So that's something that probably points to the fourth point here, that there's a new way of doing business. Many companies are talking about working from home. Some of them, you don't have that option, let's say in manufacturing. But then it's a new era that both businesses and also employees or customers should adapt to and accept the new fact. Like right now we are talking about opening the economy, but then there's a surge in the virus cases, so they're kind of dialing it back. So because of that, people need to realize that, okay, this is not business as usual. We need to go back and rethink some of the things, especially in those cases that things are not done online or as an e-commerce. And then there should be like this broad reach for solving the problem across the board. So with that, I'm just going to open up the discussion here, and let me know if you have any questions. It's completely open.
Yeah,
exchange ideas.
Salar. And I guess I wanted to sort of highlight that, you know, we have lived a long time with security cameras around shopping malls and public spaces, and you know, even our businesses have security cameras outside, which has primarily been used to protect us from, or protect businesses from criminals. Now, this is a change in mindset where the cameras are being turned in and watching the good guys. And I guess it'll be interesting to see, particularly in the US, how people respond to that, whether the loss of privacy is worth the result. Because I can see a lot of people say, I really like the idea that there's a system making sure my office mate is wearing his face mask, but I don't want to be watched to make sure that I wear my face mask. So it's okay to point at somebody else, but when it's pointed at me, you have a different thinking about it. So I don't know if you've experienced that yet, or had any feedback from customers on how people respond to that new world of the cameras now looking at the good guys.
Right.
Hey, Salar, I have a question on a slightly different topic.
Sure.
Are you saying that you're using AI models for each one of these use cases you mentioned here?
You mean in different business environments?
Correct. And if so, are they running on cloud? Are they running on device? Where are they running?
I see. So our platform runs both in the cloud as AWS and also on the edge. That part, we don't have any limitations. As a matter of fact, I think majority of bigger customers prefer not to send their data to the cloud, not only for latency and performance, and there's also cost factor and also security, like they don't want to share their data.
Sure.
That's one aspect of it. But the algorithm
sorry, go ahead, yeah.
And then the algorithm itself is pretty universal. Actually, this is a very interesting case that I want to share with you, because a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple of months ago, we had that meeting with Amazon recognition people that they showed us the tool. Now, here the point was not to reinvent the wheel and go for like a new model, train it the whole time, because it's a time-sensitive matter, right? We could spend a lot of time and money to build that model that is needed for facial recognition, right?
Correct.
But we decided not to go that route. If Amazon is offering it, let's use it. And a part of what I showed you is based on Amazon recognition. There's a lot more to it. Like they don't do all these sophisticated analysis, but where you have something available, like it doesn't make sense to redo it. And the character of the algorithm is that it's pretty universal. You can, the point is that you can see people with it and analyze those things. And the other thing that we've tried to focus on is the more like open space wide area monitoring as opposed to choke points.
Oh. And also, when you say edge, you mean an x86 PC, right?
Yes. So it could be like a local server. So the architecture of our platform is edge, fog, and cloud. So it could be like an isolated machine, computer machine that is linked to or connected to a camera, or it could be like a micro data center, like for enterprise customers, or it could be like the general cloud.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So if you're interested in any further details or have more questions, please feel free to reach out.
All right. Well, thank you, Salar. That was a great presentation, and thank you everyone for attending. And this is Salar's contact information if you'd like to follow up with him on this topic, or feel free to visit us at member.aviate.ai to stay in touch with the community. So, thank you, everybody, and that ends our presentation.
Thank you.